Welcome to Wallace on Wire. Today we're talking about Teng Chang Kim's denial regarding the DAP's tax policy stance. Political memory can be, well, famously short, but history has this funny way of catching up, especially when it's about something that hits everyone's wallet, like taxes.
And that's exactly what we're seeing here. This isn't just some old argument being rehashed. It's a really sharp public disagreement between two major figures. Former Selangor senior executive counselor Teng Chang Kim and the Bagan member of parliament Lim Guan Eng.
We're zeroing in on this fiery exchange because it gets to the heart of a huge policy shift. We're talking about the move away from the goods and services tax, the GST, and back to the sales and service tax, or SST.
Right. And the core question is, was that decision back in 2018 really as united as one leader claims? Because this isn't just about politics. It highlights some very deep tensions within the party over a massive economic policy that, we're all still feeling the effects of today.
Okay, so let's break down where this all started. The ignition point for this recent feud seems to be the current mess with tax refunds.
It is. A lot of people, especially businesses, are complaining about delays and confusion. It's a real pain point right now.
And Teng Chang Kim basically lit the fuse with a public statement. He went right for the jugular, arguing that Lim Guan Eng should be the one to bear the political responsibility for all this current chaos.
He's drawing a direct line, isn't he? He's saying, if you're frustrated with the refund system today, you need to look at the decisions that were made back in 2018. He's connecting the public's discontent now directly to that policy switch.
Exactly. So how did Lim Guan Eng respond to that?
Well, his response was pretty swift. He came out and asserted that the promise in the 2018 election manifesto to replace GST with SST had received unanimous support from the entire party.
Unanimous. That's a very strong word.
It is. And he didn't just leave it at that. He specifically named Teng Chang Kim as being one of the supporters. So he was essentially trying to say, hey, we were all in this together. You can't just pin this on me now.
It's a classic political maneuver, right? If things go south, spread the blame. Make it a collective responsibility.
Of course. But that claim of unanimity is precisely what triggered Teng Chang Kim's very detailed and I would say dramatic rebuttal.
And this is where it gets really interesting because his denial isn't just a simple, no, I didn't. He makes some very specific distinctions about his stance on taxation back then.
He really does. He draws some very clear lines in the sand. First off, there's the cultural point. He strongly denies ever singing that famous DAP-composed ABCD GST song.
Which might sound trivial, but it's actually quite significant.
It is, because that song wasn't a policy paper. It was, a symbol of this very populist, almost emotional rejection of the entire GST system. By saying, I never sang that song, he's distancing himself from the political fervor. He's trying to frame his position as being more technical and logical, not just part of a political way.
I see. So it's about separating policy critique from what he might see as, well, mob sentiment.
Precisely. And that leads to his second and probably more crucial point. He clarifies that while he disagreed with the 6% rate of the GST, he never outright opposed the tax system itself.
Okay, that's a huge distinction.
It's fundamental.
Yeah.
He's suggesting he saw the merits in the framework of a value-added tax system like GST, a broader tax base, more efficient collection in theory. His issue was with the implementation that the 6% rate was too much of a burden for ordinary people.
So he's saying, tweak it, don't trash it.
Exactly, which brings us to his third and most direct denial. He says very clearly that he never supported replacing the GST with the SST. That was not his position.
So he's essentially claiming that the complete U-turn, the total abandonment of the GST model, was a move he never agreed with.
Correct. And this is where you really see the political tightrope he was walking at the time. He actually gives a reason why he wasn't more vocal back then.
What did he say?
He mentioned that if he had publicly come out in support of keeping GST, even at a lower rate, it would have been political suicide. He said it would have resulted in an additional charge of party betrayal.
Wow. So the pressure to conform must have been immense.
It paints a picture of a political environment where nuance wasn't really an option. The mandate from the top was to repeal GST, full stop. Any deviation from that line was seen as treachery.
And that kind of internal pressure, that simmering disagreement, is now boiling over into this very public and very personal fight.
It really has. It's moved beyond just policy debate. The recent exchange became about personal challenges and some pretty sharp barbs.
You're talking about that taunt he directed at Lim Guan Eng.
Yes, it was dripping with sarcasm. Teng Chang Kim basically asked if Lim Guan Eng, who was, so powerful at the time as finance minister, really needed his support anyway.
That's not just a policy disagreement. That's a direct critique of a centralized power structure within the party, isn't it? It suggests decisions were made at the top and others were just expected to fall in line.
That's certainly the implication. And then came the direct challenge for evidence. This is where it got really dramatic.
Right. He put the burden of proof squarely on Lim Guan Eng.
Completely. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, if I said that statement, I will apologize. But then he flipped it around. If you do not have the evidence, what will you do?
He's demanding accountability. Either show me the proof or you have to answer for making a false claim.
It's a power move. And he drove the point home by saying, one must be responsible, and if you make a mistake, do not ask others to share the blame. He's effectively saying Lim Guan Eng needs to take sole ownership for the consequences of that policy shift.
And to really hammer this point home, he brought up another incident from the past, didn't he, to sort of establish a pattern of behavior.
He did. He challenged Lim Guan Eng on whether he had the full unanimous support of the party when he was appointed Penang chief minister. He pointed out that the announcement was made before the Central Executive Committee had even formally met to decide on it.
So he's using that as an example to suggest that this idea of unanimous support might be something that's declared after the fact, not something that's genuinely sought before a big decision is made.
Exactly. He's casting doubt on the entire claim of consensus, both for the chief minister appointment and, by extension, for the GST to SST switch. It's a very potent political accusation.
And this brings us back to why any of this matters to people today. Let's talk about those real-world consequences, the structural problems this whole thing created.
Right, because at the end of the day, this isn't just political theater. Teng Chang Kim's whole argument is that the unstable, frustrating tax refund system we have now is a direct result of that 2018 U-turn.
So what's the structural problem? Why did that switch cause so much chaos?
Well, you have to understand how GST works. It's a multi-stage tax where businesses can claim back the tax they paid on their inputs. That requires a really sophisticated, digitally integrated system to track all of those credits and process the refunds.
And when they scrapped GST overnight?
They essentially dismantled that entire administrative machine. The legal and structural foundation for processing those refunds was just pulled out from under them almost instantly.
So it's like trying to land a plane after you've already torn down the runway.
That's a good way to put it. And according to Teng Chang Kim, this created two huge problems. First, the GST refund mechanism was paralyzed, leaving a huge backlog of claims. Second, the new SST system that replaced it was much simpler, and it wasn't robust enough to fill the administrative gap or generate the same level of revenue.
So we were left in this sort of tax no man's land. A complex system was dismantled before its debts were paid, and the new, simpler system couldn't cope.
And that's the structural instability he's talking about. It's why there's so much public frustration today. The system is still trying to reconcile these two completely different tax philosophies years later.
When you lay it out like that, it's clear this isn't just about politicians settling old scores. It really gets to the heart of how major national policy is made and unmade.
It does. It forces you to ask, what is the real cost when a political promise overrides long-term fiscal planning? Was this switch really the best economic strategy? Or was it about fulfilling a key promise from the manifesto at all costs? Teng's argument is that the current refund crisis is that cost.
So, as you're listening to this, what really stands out? Does this whole exchange reveal a genuine, deep-seated policy disagreement about how to best manage the country's finances? Or is it, just political score settling between two veterans?
I think it's probably a bit of both. But the key takeaway is that the stability of our entire financial structure depends on leaders being able to agree on and implement a coherent tax system.
And this public spat shows that the scars from that 2018 decision are, well, they're far from healed.
Yeah.
The administrative chaos, the internal party dissent, the fight for who's accountable, it's all still very much alive.
And the fundamental question, should Malaysia have a broad-based consumption tax like GST or stick with a system like SSD? That question remains completely unresolved.
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.